Thank you for joining me for the first of 4 professional developments on the book that we will be reading together called Brain Rules by Mr. John Medina. Let me give you the big picture purpose of why we are having these professional development as we're reading this book. Primarily, it's because we want to help create an understanding of how our brain works, and then as teachers, be able to put it into action towards our students in the classroom. So as we go through this book, chapter by chapter, rule by rule, we'll be able to share information of what works in the classrooms, what works for our students, more importantly, what works for us. So let's get started. So let's start with survival. And as you see in the picture here, we're trying to start a fire. That could be a metaphor for us teachers trying to start the spark of knowledge into our students. And that natural instinct that we have to survive is rather important. So looking at this hungry lion, we can see, hey, there's a hungry lion. We need to leave. But if we're talking more about surviving in a classroom, well, that could be a little bit different. So we're going to take a look at something I found online. And it's right here from the New Scientist. And it talks about the evolution myths of survival of the fittest. But what I like about the article most is that it talks about how clever we have to be, more along the lines of Einstein or Gandhi rather than Rambo, and being able to survive in that sense. So thinking of that, and I'll provide you with the information to be able to read that, how would that apply in a classroom? Even more importantly, how would it apply in your classroom and your subject? So if somebody's completely lost, would you provide a survival guide? That would probably be a good thing, since that's what we are directly dealing with in this instance here with this brain rule number 1. Okay, the next rule is exercise. Now, it is a yin and yang that we are finding out, and the reason that is because as you're fit and your body responds just as quickly as you would like because you are active and so forth, your brain actually responds the same way. The oxygen that's rich in your blood, plus all the endorphins and everything else that actually happens when you're exercising, definitely gives you a clearer mental state. You can focus more, you'll be a lot more alert as well. So I went online to the New York Magazine online and found a section called Science of Us. And it actually goes over some good information. Again, I'll provide you with that information. And it talks about how the research shows that this physical activity, it does actually boost short-term memory, brain function, and heightens the awareness. So this is something that we really need to consider as part of our regular daily routine with our students, because that's really a main focus in our classrooms. What would that look like? Well, it could be something simple. It could be something like stretching. It could be something like possibly even going outside, taking a quick walk. We feel like the energy is down in the room. You know what? Let's take control by doing something to get the blood flowing, to get that oxygen to the brain where they need it. And then that way, they'll be a lot more attentive and engaged. And the next rule is sleep, and we probably see this quite often due to students that are staying up really late for whatever reason, whether they're binge watching, whether they're on social media, on the telephone, or even studying. So we do want to keep an eye on this, because what we'll find out as we continue to read into this chapter is that our brain is constantly in a battle of staying awake versus staying asleep. So it's really important that we pay attention to our students and encourage them to get as much sleep as possible, which leads me to another online find that I had from the National Sleep Foundation. It gives us some really good information in regards to sleep and creating some good sleep methods and so forth. More importantly, it shows us a really great infographic of how much sleep each age group should be getting per night, and it varies anywhere between 11 to 14 hours for a toddler all the way to a school age kid, 9 to 11 hours. If you think about a young adult or a teenager, that's anywhere between 7 and 10 hours. So that's a lot of sleep that is necessary vocabulary that I'm pretty sure I could safely say a lot of our students aren't getting. So I think collectively as a staff, we need to start thinking about making sure that our students have opportunities to rest. Even a simple 20-minute little nap like this cat over here, that actually can help. Our brain does need to rest. It will take the information, but it does need to rest. So that's why we have chunking, and we refer to chunking as one of our strategies during our class times. Now, I'm not saying to go ahead and have a kindergarten nap, but you could rest or break everything up pretty quickly, pretty easily during class time if that's what's necessary, because you find out that your students are just really, really tired. So again, the purpose for us reading this book and going through these workshops for professional development are simply so that we can help create an understanding of how the human brain works, so that we can be much more effective in the classroom, in our lesson plans, activities, and so forth. So let's focus on 3 things while we're continuing to read this book together. The first one is, how can we relate this to our individual experiences? How does that feel? How does that look? How would that actually apply to each and every one of our classes? Since we're all different, we all think things differently and feel differently, so that's not going to be the same answer for everybody. So the second thing would then be, what would it look like in my lesson plans, in my activities, in my strategies? What and how can I adapt to make sure that all of these brain roles are being met? And I know it's not easy, but it is definitely a step in the right direction for understanding why our students act the way they do and feel the way they do during class. So when we get together again, we're going to be covering the next 3 brain rules. The first one is stress. How does that affect our memories, our ability to think, etc.? Wiring. How are we all wired? Are we the same or are we different? Take a wild guess. And then finally, attention. How much attention do we need to focus on in order to get the point? So the next time we meet, let's everybody have a couple of different lesson plans so that we can take a look and see, are we addressing any of these rules naturally on our own without reading this book? As we continue to read through the book, things will start getting a lot clearer, especially with more discussions. So if you have any questions, go ahead and send me an email. You can check my website for more information. Everything I have here is going to be on my website as well. So please feel free to contact me before the meeting. I will answer all the questions that you may have. So don't be shy. Go ahead, contact me, and I will see you at the next meeting. So please make sure you read the book and have those lesson plans ready.